Have you ever looked at your house cat or your loyal dog and desperately wished you knew exactly what was running through their minds? What secrets are they keeping? What do they truly think about your singing voice? Now imagine that wish coming true, not just for your pets, but for every living creature on Earth, from the deep-sea giant squid to the smallest garden ant and the majestic tiger. Suddenly, overnight, they all possess the full capability of human language. The silence of the natural world is over. This isn't just a fantasy. It is the single most disruptive event imaginable for human civilization. This biological and linguistic quantum leap would redefine morality, science, and perhaps most importantly, humanity itself. Welcome to the day the animals started talking. Are you ready to hear the truth? The very first impact would not be philosophical or scientific. It would be pure, unadulterated chaos. Think about the global noise pollution. Humans are already prone to loud chatter, but suddenly every forest, every backyard, every ceiling space, and every city park is filled with dialogue, complaint, argument, and information overload. Your pet dog would likely start by aggressively questioning your schedule, demanding better quality treats, and revealing that embarrassing incident you thought nobody saw. The cat would probably just tell you that you are entirely beneath its standard and demand immediate reparations for years of inadequate scratching posts. In zoos, the captive animals would immediately form internal committees. The primates, having developed complex social structures already, would use their newfound voice to articulate decades of boredom and stress. The chimpanzees would effectively become political prisoners able to lobby the UN for their release. Immediate chaos would also erupt in veterinary offices. Instead of diagnostic guesswork based on observation, vets would be dealing with patients who can articulate exactly where it hurts, but who also might be prone to exaggeration, hypochondria, or outright lies in order to avoid a needle. Medicine would advance rapidly, but the level of patient compliance would plummet. But the domestic sphere is just the appetizer for the real crisis, the immediate and total collapse of the global food system. Over 7 billion people rely on livestock for sustenance. When a cow can look you in the eye and explain the agonizing terror of the feedlot, when a pig can articulate its sentience and plead for its life, the concept of industrial farming becomes morally untenable in real time. Imagine the news reports thousands of chickens forming a cohesive union, demanding better living conditions and retirement plans. The sight of mass animal protests demanding autonomy and immediate personhood status would halt slaughterhouses globally. The economy built on the commodification of life would shatter instantly. Agriculture, one of the oldest human endeavors, would require an immediate, forced transition to plant-based production, causing widespread unemployment and massive food shortages in the short term. Politically, governments would face the impossible task of defining personhood. Does the ability to speak English automatically grant legal rights? If a cow can communicate its suffering, is killing it now murder? The legal system would drown under billions of habeas corpus petitions filed on behalf of livestock. Furthermore, we would have to contend with the immediate problem of pest control. Can we justify exterminating rats or insects when they can clearly communicate their complex desire to survive and their role in the local ecosystem? The foundational assumption that only humans possess meaningful consciousness would be obliterated, leading to an ethical and philosophical reckoning unlike any other. Moving beyond the domestic and agricultural crises, the true revelations would come from the wild world. The deep, silent secrets of the oceans and the jungles would suddenly be an open book. Whales, creatures who navigate the planet using complex acoustics, could detail the exact routes of pollution, the health of global fisheries, and the impact of deep-sea mining. They could provide meteorological data far superior to any human satellite, offering an unparalleled insight into climate science from the perspective of the planet itself. The rainforests would become a living library. Indigenous peoples have long relied on the subtle clues of the jungle, but now the jungle itself would talk. Trees, communicating through the vast subterranean fungal networks known as the Wood Wide Web, might articulate environmental stressors or pharmaceutical secrets locked within their biology. Scientists would gain access to millions of years of evolutionary history, detailed ecological feedback loops, and species-specific knowledge about cures and poisons. However, this ecological revolution would not be simple. Imagine the challenges of cross-species communication. A bee communicates primarily through chemical signals and dance. How does that translate into human syntax? The language of a migrating bird might be centered purely around geomagnetic fields and star patterns. We would need a new, dedicated field of xenolinguistics just to translate the underlying concepts. We would discover that human language is often too simplistic, too focused on self and object, to capture the holistic, interconnected thought processes of other species. Animals might speak English, but their understanding of reality is fundamentally different. The speaking animal would end the era of human exceptionalism forever. For millennia, the definition of humanity has rested on our unique intellectual capacity, our ability to use complex language and reason. When we lose that exclusive claim, our place in the cosmic hierarchy fundamentally shifts. We become one voice among billions, forced into a position of humility and diplomacy. We would learn truths about ourselves that we may not want to hear. Animals, having watched us in silence for years, would offer unbiased, often scathing, assessments of our behaviors, our destructiveness, and our inherent contradictions. There would be no escape from the objective gaze of those who simply observed. Furthermore, the speaking animal fundamentally changes the concept of secrecy and privacy. If every housefly can hear and repeat your private phone calls, if every rodent knows the layout of your financial records, the possibility of keeping secrets evaporates entirely. This level of pervasive, non-human surveillance would force humanity to operate with an unprecedented degree of honesty and transparency, or descend into paranoid isolation. The shift would necessitate a massive governmental restructure, the establishment of interspecies treaties, a global biological council, and the development of new conservation laws based on articulated consent rather than human management. We would move from merely managing resources to negotiating with conscious entities. This scenario is more than just a thought experiment about communication. It is a mirror reflecting our own moral inadequacies. The moment animals speak, the burden of proof shifts entirely onto us. We can no longer plead ignorance about their suffering or their value. The silence that once separated us was a protective barrier, allowing us to build a world defined by our own self-interest. When that barrier falls, we are forced to confront the full, noisy, articulate, and complex reality of the interconnected biological planet. The cost would be immense: the collapse of global industries, ethical turmoil, and the loss of our self-proclaimed throne. But the gain would be immeasurable: an unprecedented surge in biological knowledge, an end to unnecessary suffering, and a profound, permanent change in what it means to be alive on Earth. So, the next time you look at your pet, remember this: we are fortunate that the world is still silent. Because if they spoke, humanity would have to face the music, and the tune would be one we were never prepared to hear.